Welcome back, Screamers, to another round of Suns and Shadows podcast. We got our second half of The Flash from 1990. Kevin, thank you for recommending which episode order I should watch this in, as I did with you with American Gothic. However, with this show, it's not nearly as bad. It's just one episode needed to get flipped. And I started off with episode 13 instead of 12, and boy, oh boy, did that work so much better.
Yeah, I wish I would have remembered that. I didn't. I remember the line that Megan said, the all-girl gang, but I didn't remember it being crisscrossed. Otherwise, I probably would have done the same thing. It was okay, but again, like you did me the solid before of saying, don't watch it in that particular order. Watch Requiem for the end.
Yep.
And you were 1,000% right. Now, this way is kind of the same way. It's not as detrimental, but it makes a lot more sense.
Well, there's at least one line, if not a couple, where they basically reference the girl gang gone wrong. My favorite line of that is Barry referencing, if you don't get your sleep, you go bad.
You go bad.
I just love that. That was so freaking funny. And it was nice to see Tina go a bit off the reservation and be a little bad, even though there was more to it than just her not being able to get to sleep.
Yeah. I mean, they could have gotten to the Freud aspect of it of why are you having that dream, Barry?
Yeah, Barry.
But it was fun. Like her manipulating everything. It was almost like Mr. Hyde was so much fun. And like in the hospital, she made me think this what Zoe would be like in the hospital, like treating her nurses like shit and then threatening them, scaring them into saying something different. That was very much my child. So it's like I liked her, but couldn't wait for her to go back at the same time.
Yeah,
we miss good Tina.
Yeah, she was pretty good doing that. At times it felt a little over the top, but for the most part, she played it pretty good. And I loved how her hair changed and her whole demeanor was a bit more on point for being a villainess in training.
Yes, and she was instantly good at it too. Like from the moment, like I said, the moment that she woke up and Barry would walk away, she's like, it's like a light switch where she's like got to threaten everyone else around her unless it's Barry.
Yep, resting bitch face turned into a live bitch face.
A live bitch face. She had it going down in that episode. She was definitely the tight bitch. But
she even got the tattoo to show it off. It's too bad they had her say, "Oh, I'm going to laser remove this back at the office. This is a nothing deal." It's almost too bad because having that as a reminder through the last half of the show would have been super funny.
Oh yeah, like what's having her in the situation where she has to explain the tattoo at a social event or something like that.
Yeah,
that would be funny as hell.
Right. And then, of course, as it plays through to the end of the season, you could have her and Megan during that last episode with the trial of the trickster. And Megan's like, "When did you get the tattoo?" And she just looks at her as like, "You don't know how bad I can be."
I warned you not to hurt him, bitch.
Yeah. Don't make me get you.
Oh, God. It's like that Simpsons episode where Lorelai Lumpkin had that huge crush on Homer and Marge gives her a hug. "If you ever touch him again, I'll rip your hair out of the plugs." That's right. I know.
Good stuff.
That would have been so damn funny because again, I didn't like Megan's character. Like the character was a third wheel.
Well, she was a detective, yet she wasn't really a detective. She was more of a private investigator.
Yeah. And I mean, that's cool. Same thing with Harry D'Amour. And again, very much in that same noir setting or setting that noir tone, at least in the first time we see her. Second time, maybe a little, but by that last episode, by episode 22, it's no noir at all. It's very much 80s, 90s.
Yeah, her character trajectory, I don't know. I thought it was fine until we got to the last episode, and then I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It just doesn't match up with what we've had before with her. And I liked her. actress was just Andy, but in that last episode, she was just so unlikable. I'm like, what are y'all doing here? You're making her like this celebrity sort of like detective. Like, my God, I think you wanted her to be a recurring character, there's a different way to handle it. So
yeah, and Megan could have been a cool enough character. Actually, she could have been a really cool character if she wasn't a romantic interest. Because again, the romantic interest has always been, from the fan perception, Barry and Tina. That was always the thing, and that's why the end of season 3 ended the way it did for the new Flash. But anyway, they got to a point in this season where, I mean, the first half you see Megan twice. Well, up to Trial of the Trickster.
Yep.
Ish. Sorry, not Trial. That's the end. She's in the first two, watching the detectives and the Trickster. She sets that tone. I was going to say something about Megan, something smart about her character changing. Going back to what you were saying, she did realize, I think, the actress realized that Megan's character didn't so much make sense in the last episode. She acted more like her regular character in the setting that she was not supposed to be anymore. Keep calling Tina McGee. Yeah. I don't know. They changed Megan an awful lot, and it didn't, like you said, it didn't work. And I remembered what I was going to say. The second half of the season, they were shopping around for love interests.
A lot, because Big Barry Allen is your hookup. Holler if you see him.
Yeah, like for someone that's like the science dork, Barry had like tons of girls from the past, future, and present coming after him.
Man, he's a lady. Hey, I didn't mind that, but it's just at the same time, like, don't push it too much here. Because if you're just gonna make him a lady killer for, like, if this was to go on like another season or two, it could get old real quick.
It kind of did. I mean, hell, they even had a robot flirt with them.
The alpha thing kind of bothered me a little bit. Not so much in like, hey, it's a robot. No, it was more of like, okay, we've had this like 5 times already in like the last like 9 or 10 episodes. We don't need to keep getting this every other episode. You could have spread it out, spaced it out. I'm sure they were trying to find something that would work or keep the story going, so it wasn't like Tina and Barry love tension the entire time. I don't know, maybe with another season they could have ironed out those kinks. Not to say that I didn't like the second half or the entire season at all, just, you know, it kind of played through some formula and tropes, and just the recycling of the, hey, let's have Barry hook up with somebody, and nope, we're gonna tease Tina for an episode, nope, now we're gonna have Barry hook up with somebody again.
Yeah, and there's always like this moral to the story where they finally like reach a new personal understanding where they flirt just an extra bit further after the chick has already left, for the other chick has left for some whatever reason, albeit going to San Francisco to run this business, going to go try her hand out in Metropolis for that. And it was too repetitive. It got that way for me. No one was a bad actor. There were no bad characters for
I was actually pleasantly surprised. All the acting was really good.
Yeah.
Everybody felt comfortable in their roles. I didn't feel like anybody was like underplaying it or overplaying it too much. If they were overplaying it, it's because they were told to, because they're super villains or whatever their deal was.
Yeah. And really, some of them had chemistry, others not so much.
Yeah.
Denise Crosby. Love her. I don't think she could do any wrong.
Tasha Yar, be still my ever beating heart. Yep. I next gen you.
Shit. Well, she also closed out Pet Cemetery too, and that was dope as fuck.
That's true. That's true.
And then Yvette Kniper. She was really, really nice to see her.
Oh,
always nice to see her. She was the one I think had the most chemistry with Barry.
Yeah, I was shocked how good she was. I'm like, holy shit, that girl's got star written all over her, because she had great chemistry. She played her role to a T, and I'm like, if you want competition for Tina, You just had it with her.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you could have just brought her back just one more time, and it would have been just dandy.
I wish they would have. They didn't. Megan was the only one that came back multiple times, right? To my
Yeah,
recollection,
I
anyway.
didn't notice and much else outside of our normal cast.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the only other female character that comes on more than once, actually, probably more than Megan, would be Sabrina, Julio's fiance,
Oh, that's true.
or
And even
girlfriend, eventually fiance.
and she's even great. She has a great chemistry with Julio. It's not like this throwaway character.
No, and it was so much. She was fun. Like
Yeah.
she kept Julio in check because, of course, Julio's the ladies' man everywhere, and she keeps his shit in check.
While also trying to hook up Barry with every other girl he knows or friend of Sabrina's that he knows.
Yeah, and the gosh, I don't remember what episode it was. It was closer towards the end where he's trying to get away out of the bar. I think it was when he was pretending to be Professor Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
And he said something about having the stag party in the office, and she goes, "The what? The what?"
And Julio just casually is like, "Hey, we need to get going. Let's go. Don't listen to him."
Yeah, it was nothing. It's a joke. It's a joke, baby.
Yep. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Yeah, there was a few times he would reference having an issue with her or whatever, and it always got resolved somehow. And I loved her line in one of the episodes where she's like, "Yeah, we made up for it," and then somebody aside said, "Yeah, he was on his hands and knees groveling back."
They all had really good chemistry together, and even Lieutenant Garfield. God, the second half of the series was great for him.
Oh yeah, he was the star that was shining during that second half.
Because I mean, he didn't do that whole typical angry boss thing. Yes, he was that angry boss all the time, but like we said before, he would loosen up with the science guys.
Except for one episode where Barry was pissing him off the whole time because Barry had a stress out issue, a burnout issue that never really got resolved at the end either. Because at the end of that episode, what still hasn't been resolved? The last time Barry saw his boss was when he tried to almost snap his fingers, even though that was the other Barry that did that.
Yeah,
Pollux.
That's right. Fucking snazzy dresser though. Snazzy.
Except for that hat. I didn't. Yeah. Little French beret hat or whatever that was.
It made me think of fucking Baby Huey or something.
You're right.
The one thing that you cannot joke about that episode, though, it does sound ridiculous that John Wesley Shipp was supposed to be playing a giant 4-year-old. He did it with such sincerity that you bought it. And that moment at the end where Pollux is dying and he asks Barry to take off his mask because he wants to see himself before he dies was beautiful. It really was. Like there was some soul in that scene.
Yeah.
More than I expected there should have been. Because it sounds like it would be cheesy. And nothing was ever phoned in. No performances were phoned in, no matter how cheesy it may have sounded. And they all worked great.
Yeah, and of all of the stars on this show, John Wesley Shipp, he was clearly the star of the show, and he nailed it. And he even got better and better and better as the show went along. I'm like, wow, this dude's acting the hell out of this role. He's really jumping into it. Like, we go from the pilot, which is literally probably the worst episode in my opinion, as far as story episodes that actually play into anything of an overall arching story. We had to have that episode, but we go from that to where it's I could see him as Flash too. By the end, that dude is Flash. Try following that shit up. And to their credit, Grant Gustin's Flash was enough of his own Flash, and they played plenty of homages and brought in the former cast members for other roles in the CW show, and that's just fine on its own. But that's something that was sorely missing from the new Flash movie. They didn't even try and do any sort of homage or any sort of anything, and that probably hurt that in the long run. But man, John Wesley Shipp, fan freaking tastic. he should get all the credit in the world, because if he wasn't the Flash in this show, I honestly don't know who they could have gotten that would have done just as good, if not better than him.
I don't know. Michael Rosenbaum, but he was Wally West. But Rosenbaum could be anything and anyone. I don't know. He
I would say
nailed
Patrick
this role.
Warburton, but he was doing the Tick, and I'm like, yeah, I can't see him as Flash.
No, he's too muscular, like just really broad shouldered. Of course, John was too, but still.
Well, yeah, as compared to like even like the cartoon or animated versions or whatever with Barry, he always looks so thin and twiggy. It's like, seeing this is like, I like seeing a grown man as Flash, to be honest with you.
Kinda a man that could actually move and hit hard. Yeah, because see, that's one of those things. The skinny guys, we hit hard, but Flash's thing is he hits so many times, like a bee. When it stings eventually so many times, you will die.
Yeah.
Which, well, gosh, what episode was it? It was this half of the series where you do see him get to use his whirlwind punch. That was cool as hell.
Yeah, I don't remember which episode that was, to be honest with you, though.
I think it might have been Mirror Master.
Maybe. That was a goofy episode.
The goofy episode. It was really stupid in a lot of ways and really cool in a lot of other ways.
I wrote that for a handful of episodes in this last half. I'm like, I don't know, this is pretty stupid, but I'm having a lot of fun. And like,
yes,
interesting episode for a goofy concept. So I have that written like 3 or 4 times in the last half.
Well, the Flash's Rogue Gallery, like, they are some of the craziest villains and zaniest villains. Central City's got some really interesting ones. Batman's are all sadistic and horrible. And the Rogues have become about the same in recent history. But these guys were so much fun. And they were too colorful to put in on actual TV. So when you'd see these guys, they were like dime store versions of the characters. Almost that's what they were, only that by name. Captain Cold. They didn't even call him Leonard Snart. They just, that's Captain Cold. And they explained that he was an albino, he had the glasses, but that was it. He didn't have the suit other than wearing a business suit with was it a duster over it?
Yeah.
And he had his freeze gun. But the actor was so great at the character, and I cannot say that the dialogue was really great, because the dialogue was not great for him. He himself was scary. The actor was scary.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he scares Murphy, and it was believable, totally believable. And it was cool. I would have liked to have seen an episode where all of the rogues in the second half of the season got together under the trickster's order or what have you, like in the court scene, have them be the jury, which I think is eventually what that case turned out to be with Batman.
Yeah, that's what they did in the Batman the Animated show.
Had the rest of the Arkham inmates.
Yep,
that's right. Which, again, so much of great Batman stories coming out of this. It's like, you want to give it more credit, just like Scream from the Mountaintops. No. Harley Quinn came from this. Frank, yes. Well, there was also Harley in the all-girls gang, too.
Yep.
And I love that the prank's name was Zoe. I'm like, crazy bitch. I have a Zoe and a Harley. Thank you.
You are now surrounded by the Central City girls.
No shit.
Okay, well, I got a question for you. I know they're a bit like, they do feel like variations on Batman villains, but like, what would the main difference be between Trickster and, say, like Joker? Because I get, like, for Captain Cold, I get he's a bit different than Victor Freeze and Batman and being Mr. Freeze. It looks like it's a great proof concept. Like, you could do this character in a live action show and not have it be like Arnold and Batman and Robin. But like, as far as like Trickster versus Joker, I'm kind of curious, like, how close are they? Are they actually all that different? Because Mark does end up voicing Joker in Batman the Animated Show not too long after this.
Yes, they're very fairly similar.
Okay. I asked because I actually don't know.
Joker was so popular.
Yeah.
that they didn't want to oversaturate the market or the books with Joker stories. So eventually you'd get characters like Trickster or even Riddler. Riddler was supposed to be a second-rate cheap knockoff of the Joker. Of course, obviously that character went off in a completely different and better scenario.
Oh yeah.
But the Trickster uses tricks, not jokes. So like there's no punchlines or anything like that. There is a excellent movie. What is it? It's one of the Lego movies that has the Trickster, and Mark Hamill voices him in that too. And people keep calling him the Joker. He's like, I'm not the Joker, I'm the Trickster. I've got no jokes, I've got tricks. See, and he's like throwing itching powder or stink bombs and stuff like that.
Isn't that Lego Batman?
I don't know if it was in the video game too, but it's one of the movies where it starts off with him blowing up a giant stink bomb over Metropolis, or Cyborg actually blows it up.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll find it for you and I'll send it to you. But he Mark explains it like almost offensively. I'm not the Joker.
That's pretty funny.
But and then later on, when you do see the Joker, he's actually voiced by John DiMaggio, I think.
Oh.
And Mark Hamill's voicing Sinestro instead.
Okay.
Yeah, so he doesn't voice Joker in the Lego movies.
That's
Other
okay.
voices, you can't have him do everything as much as you'd want.
Oh, Mark Hamill was just fantastic. I loved seeing him in a live action version of just doing this role. Like, if they had done a Batman early on enough, he could have done a Joker. Probably with a different Batman, not Michael Keaton, but I think that could have been fun.
Oh gosh, I don't know. Maybe this era, the Keaton and Shipp, like
it could have worked.
It could have, and it really should have worked. WB like dropped the ball and kicked it on that one. They had fucking allusions to it. They talk about Lois Lane in this half of the season.
I was gonna say they were tying into a bunch of things. They didn't like name drop Bruce Wayne or Batman or Superman, but Metropolis, Lois Lane, go down the list. There was some subtle hints here and there.
Oh, did you catch the Gorilla Grodd nod?
I did not actually.
Nightshade talks about Dick Miller used to work for Gorilla Grodd. And I'm like, wait, what?
I must
that's
have
cool as hell.
In one ear and out the other on that one.
That episode, or the Nightshade episodes, are pretty damn fantastic. But yeah. I'll get to that in a second. I still want to talk about the Trickster. He's that is as close as we'll ever get to the perfect Joker on screen. Nicholson was pretty goddamn perfect, but like Mark Hamill gave such a different life to the Joker that it's no one else can double it. The same way that, say, like Kevin Conroy.
Yep.
He and Adam West are so very iconically Batman. So, but Mark Hamill in this, I loved it so much. His enjoyment for the character, his love for what he was doing is so fucking evident, especially in the last episode, where basically he's hamming it up for the entire hour. But his attorney says, Jesse, don't be a fool. And he gets right up on the bars with this great big smile on his face, almost crying at the same time. I can't help it. It was so wonderful. Because like you believed he had this smile and he was so happy and laughing, but there's tears behind his eyes. And that's another one of the things, the big difference between Joker and Trickster. Joker is a psychopath.
He never would have played shit like that.
Yeah. Joker has full control over himself. Nightwing is the one that always figured that one out. Like the Joker was not insane. He had full intentions. Trickster is a psychotic. He believes that he's all these different personas. So you see him believing that he's this magician that's going to cut Megan in half, which is fantastic in itself. And then he starts putting two and two together, like, well, it was that Flash guy that stopped me. It's his fault. That's why she doesn't love me, because of him. Now I've got to become Trickster to stop him. And it's like he creates this story and this persona. And when you see him, when Prank gets him out of the courthouse, he starts reverting back to James Jesse, and she doesn't allow it. She like gaslights him to remain trickster.
Yep.
And it was really damn cool. That whole gaslighting thing was actually really mature for this type of show at the time.
I'll say this show made a lot of excellent choices as far as things like that went.
I would definitely agree. And everyone is pretty much perfectly cast for that. That the actor playing Prank was just damn amazing.
She was fantastic and gorgeous too.
Yes. And the spite in her eyes was wonderful.
It's like
such spite. She had spite for Megan because she wanted to be the only Prank. And then she had spite for Flash because she wanted to be the only person in Trickster's heart. And Trickster has no place in his heart for her. It's all about Flash.
Let alone his getaway truck that he kicked her out of his. He was trying to escape at the end of the trial. Oh, that was too funny. And then they spent like 5 minutes blowing up the truck and all the cars it was towing. And I'm like, this is insane.
The last episode, they were just like, you know what? We've still got a whole bunch left over in the budget. Y'all go have fun.
Yeah, let's blow some shit up.
Fucking McGee rewires his scooter.
His scooter. Yeah. Sends him flying and he just gets up and continues running. I'm like, no. He should be hurt or limping.
There was a great episode of Justice League Unlimited where I think it's Flash and Green Lantern, John Stewart walked into the bar and Trickster's there drinking, and Flash convinces him to go back on his meds. It was fucking funny.
I think I remember that one.
I don't remember what episode it was, but it was Mark Hamill, and it was so delightful. Yeah. Just get back on your meds, James. You'll be just fine.
Fine.
So, but then call back to most previous times with Sean Cassidy. We got his brother as the Mirror Master, who you wouldn't think David Cassidy is a scary individual, but he comes off rather creepy in this.
I'd say so. That was pretty good. Episode was a bit odd, though, to be honest with you, but I did like the different tactics for a villain like him. Now,
I'm going to toss out a question, not so much for you, but to Chad Peterman.
Yeah, Chad.
Because I know Chad likes Flash. The episode where they had Bill Mummy in it, who created the sleep machine, was that supposed to be the Pied Piper?
That's a good question. I would think so. That's almost what it felt like.
Yeah, because he had the ear things. He was able to make people do whatever or fall asleep. So I was assuming that was the Pied Piper, but then you had the whole Cousin Harry thing, and that was kind of weird. That got really weird there.
Yeah, that's when it kind of lost me. I'm like, and then he thought he was this criminal mastermind at the end. I'm like, I'm sorry, you lost me with Harry being the main guy. Although I did find it funny, he took out the guy who was supposed to be kind of his boss. And he's like, you should have listened to your freaking cousin. And then he just shoots the guy because he had no problem robbing the city, but he wanted no part of like a mass murder. And I'm like, at least somebody's drawing a freaking line in this show as far as villains. It's like, no, we're just knocking these people out. Time's almost up. Let's just get our money and let people get on with their lives. I want nothing to do with killing a whole city. And Harry's just like, boom, you dead. I don't care. It's like, oh, dude, listen to the guy who knows what he's talking about. Get your money, get your shit, get the fuck out of town, and let's hit up the next one. Hey, fucking go to Gotham City and let Batman deal with your sorry asses, you know?
That wouldn't last very long.
Well, what's funny is I should have made a note on which episode this was, but there's one episode where they're like, well, we need to call somebody for help. There's nobody who can help. And I'm like, you've mentioned Metropolis, you've mentioned Lois Lane. Doesn't somebody want to give Superman a fucking call? Just saying.
He's so busy all the time, and he's got the dog. He's got things to do. The farm. He's got the tractor to prepare for his dad.
Unless Doomsday showed up and he bought the farm.
Which is funny because after Doomsday kills him in the comics, that's exactly where he goes.
Hey, yep.
0 pointing again, but at least we're keeping it within DC.
Yep, we stand united.
We stand united.
Justice League, assemble. No, but seriously, it's like, okay, you're talking about you clearly need some help with something nefarious, and everybody's incapacitated, and who are we gonna call? Fucking ask for Superman? Batman? I don't know. They never mentioned like Gotham like at all. So although they mentioned Arkham in an earlier episode during the first half of the season, and I'm like,
Oh, did they?
interesting. Yep, an Arkham Award.
Oh. Okay. I think I vaguely remember that.
It was one of those journalistic episodes right at the very beginning. I picked that up almost right away, but I don't remember if that was the pilot or if that might have been like the second episode.
I don't know. The first two episodes they're long. Well,
Yep.
the first episode is very long. the
Yes.
second episode just feels long.
Right. And then by the third episode, the show gets rolling along. And then, I don't know, this whole second half felt like a completely show that was dialed in. Other than a few episodes felt like they were just bottle episodes, not much of an overall storyline going on. But at least like this last half had some really memorable episodes, really memorable characters. And it felt like everything was starting to click, like the chemistry, the tension with everybody, everything was dialed in. And it's just too bad. Like we got 22 episodes of a really good show, and that was it. We didn't get another season.
I am sure there are thousands, if not millions, of other reasons why Saddam Hussein is probably burning in hell. But this is my favorite reason that he's probably burning in hell for, is getting this canceled. His invasion of Kuwait and our response to it got this and so many other great shows canceled. And this is one that I think would have been such a gem. It is a gem. It's not, but I think it would have continued to be something wonderful and could have spawned better TV than what we had at the time. Because this, for the time, and we've seen other shows that cross between the 80s and 90s that are not that smart.
Or translate well to now.
Yeah. Well, there was a couple things in here that probably shouldn't have been said.
Or shown on television.
The reporter that thought Julio was the Flash in whiteface was horrid.
For our audio listeners, I just face palmed as Kevin told me that, because I had forgotten about that, and that was just so cringe.
Yeah, like, wow, that's no, it's not even funny.
Well, she looks at him and she's like, "Boy, you're not the Flash," and I'm like, "Boy, you got some of the dumbest fucking people."
And she's a reporter too, which again, having
she was reporter, a tabloid reporter more than anything.
Yes, yeah, and she was trying to get that big break to make it up to the New Yorker. It wasn't the New Yorker, but it was some New York-based type paper or whatever.
Barry, stop trying to hook up with these reporters. It's a bad idea, man.
Yeah, right. Don't get with the Snoopy ones.
Yeah.
That's why Miss Sniper would have been the best one to come back if you needed that love triangle at all. But again, I didn't necessarily need that. I'm Team Tina.
I'm Team Tina as well. And I'm glad Iris never showed up again. So I'm like, hey, we win.
I'm glad that the last Flash series with Grant, that they gave Iris a much better actor and character to be. Because
they wrote more for her.
Yeah, like giving the season or what have you, like they did make her character do some great things, and other not so much. But she always really pushed for Iris to be a good character, and she always gave her best.
Yeah.
This Iris, not so much. Like it just didn't work out.
No, the kind of character we got out of Tina is the kind of character they gave Iris in the CW show with Grant.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I was never necessarily a Barry and Iris fan. Wally was pretty much Flash by the time I started reading DC. Okay. So I didn't get a whole lot of that exposure as a kid, I guess.
Or nostalgia for it.
Yeah, so it's like I didn't necessarily care that there was no Iris in this series, other than the first part. It didn't bother me at all because, like, again, she was never that interesting. They did not write her well at all.
Now, do you think if we had gotten one more season, we would have gotten more into some of the other characters or even Rogue Gallery? What do you think?
I think so. I think that, like I said, that they were testing the waters with romantic interests.
Right.
And then all the rogues, I think those were kind of like presents. Here's this, here's that. You waited for the first half of the season. Now here's Captain Cold, here's Mirror Master or Trickster, what have you. I think eventually we would have gotten that whole attack on Flash by the entire Rogue Gallery. That's really what I would have liked to have seen more than a love interest come back, is a plot for them all to get together. Not so much the Legion of Doom, but the actual Rogue Gallery, and come up with a plan to get Flash. They could have even already had Barry's fucking identity exposed, which I believe was the case in Central City. Not in this.
Oh yeah, not in this, because
comics.
every time somebody figured out his identity, they got killed. How convenient. Like all these criminals, when they finally got wise, they all ended up dead.
Pretty much. And that's always the case with bad guys.
Yeah,
like, you get you go ahead and get to win, finding out who he is, but then your life is over anyway.
Yeah. I guess my big question would be like, and I just asked you this, but just internally what I'm trying to formulate here is like, if we had gotten to another season, could we have gotten into like what you said, a little bit of like all the rogues starting to come together and team up, or after that potentially like do that like halfway through the season, then introduce like, hey, we need to get something a little more powerful, a little more cerebral going on. Do we introduce somebody like, say, Reverse Flash at that point, or do we get into some of these other bigger, badder Rogue Gallery villains for them? I don't know. I know Captain Boomerang's not really like this super villain, but that could have been an interesting idea too. I don't know. It's fun to think about what they could have done with this show. Like the playground was set in primo for this in Central City. It's fun to think about what they could have done. And at least they did do a little bit of that in the CW show with our original Flash here, John Wesley Shipp. So at least we got a little bit of a taste of a lot of those things, including a reunion with Mark Hamill, the Trickster.
Oh, that was so great.
That was a great episode. I love that.
Anytime that there's a reunion from the original series, it was like a tear to the eye. Like, I so become the "it's still real to me" guy.
Yep. Well, it reminds me of like Bruce Campbell and Ted Raimi in Ash versus Evil Dead when they are drinking buddies, and I'm like, okay, you got me with that one, guys.
Yeah. It's nostalgia hits me pretty hard in some respects. And this show, I enjoyed it so much, and I guess it was such a good point in my life that I was enjoying watching it that late at night. Like I this always makes me come back to a happy place. I love this show. I love the actors. John Wesley Shipp will always be like a hero in my eyes. I'm 43 years old and I still look up to him like he is the Flash. Not rational, but I still think it's cool as hell. Like I said, I'm the "it's still real to me" guy.
Kayfabe, brother. Kayfabe. Well, it's like me with Michael Keaton. I can watch him in just about anything, and I'm like, what I think of first is Batman. He's my Batman.
Yes.
While there's other Batman that are either better in some respects or whatever in other respects, I don't know. That's 1989. That's when I became a legitimate Batman fan. I had only watched the 66 show here and there, and I'm like, this is okay. And then we got 89 Batman. I'm like, that's my Batman, bro.
Yeah, that was pretty goddamn cool. And there was such great merch for it, too.
I had a baseball hat. I had a few things. I had a movie poster. I had the VHS tape when it came out. I had a few things, but what I will remember is I had a baseball hat, and I had to stay with my cousin for a month. And when it was time to go, I couldn't find my baseball hat. He didn't know where it went either. Gee, I wonder where it went. And later on, I would find it in his closet like several years later. So I know he kept it. He hid it.
Did you take it back?
No, because it was pretty beat up and shitty. So.
Oh. Well, at that point, I would have still keistered it and just put it back. That way he could, anyway. You could have keistered it to get it out, but since you didn't want it, just keister it to give it back.
Long story short, without details, I got him back, so no worries on that. Just in a different way.
Good.
Don't get mad, get even, folks. That's our DC PSU for the day. Or PSA.
That's true. The PSA.
And knowing is the entire battle.
G.I. Joe. Oh my gosh. Friggin', speaking of impressions and stuff like that, Mark Hamill doing his Rocky impression in this just killed the shit out of me.
Oh my God.
Yep. And now here's something we hope you really like. I'm like, oh my God. I died.
He's so fucking good at this show. People don't give him credit. I'm honestly surprised Mark Hamill is not a bigger name, but like he took some time off after Return of the Jedi for like 6 years from film. He was still acting. He was doing like plays and other things, but I'm just surprised when Star Wars was over with it, he was not the bigger star. But even Harrison Ford struggled a little bit after Star Wars as well.
Yeah, it was a weird time for actors.
Yeah.
Between the 50s and the 70s, typecasting was a horrible fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I really wish that they wouldn't have been seen as a typecast. It's much better than that.
Well, you went from Corvette Summer to Star Wars, and then after Star Wars, it's like, well, what are you going to give them? And then we're sitting around waiting, and Harrison Ford, while he had Indiana Jones, we were still getting like other movies with him in it that weren't really all that great.
No, that's true.
Or hits.
I think it was also a matter of preference. Like,
yeah.
I think maybe he does like the sci-fi stuff or the comedy stuff more.
Right.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would agree with you. Like, I mean, here's another thing. Kids today, Star Wars to them could be The Mandalorian or Book of Boba Fett or a whole bunch of other things. When you and I were kids, Star Wars was Luke Skywalker.
Basically.
And so, yeah, so there's always that idol envy there to where we don't understand, like, why the fuck doesn't the rest of you see what we see?
Exactly. We're just it's a product of how we grew up. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, and then my, ever obsessive lust for fucking cartoons and video game voices, like he's amazing. I love him. I'll watch anything he's in.
Oh yeah.
Which, if anyone could find it, Comic Book the Movie is fantastic.
Is that something I should check out? I've never heard of that.
Yes. Comic Book the Movie is rad. It's a movie that he made with a bunch of friends, and it's absolutely wonderful.
I have written it down. It is now on the list.
Yeah, like there's no moment. You just made the list. See, I promised I wouldn't do the clicker thing, and now I gotta.
No edits. That's staying in there.
I'm invincible. Yeah. Before we started, I was twirling my pen like, oh God, what's it? Alan Cumming? Alec? I can't remember. I'm horrible
on that one. Yep.
I just remember his name was Ivan. Nightcrawler. Whatever. I'm Mr. Cumming. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just remember his last name, and it's Nightcrawler.
Alrighty.
I'm a horrible host.
Well, I'll be a good host and rein us back in. Kevin, any thoughts before we hit our 6-pack challenge?
I love this show, and I wish we can go back in time and make it so that there was more of it.
I agree.
I think everyone should get this show. It's only $10 now, people. Like
on Amazon
it really
DVD set. It's a great set. The art is stunning. It's basically an old brick. We're not doing video on here, but I got it in my hands. Like, this thing it's sizable, but it's definitely worth it. And they got some great art on the reversible cover. So I would highly, highly recommend buying this set. $10.
Yeah, I think I bought it when it first came out, and it was super duper expensive, like redonkulously. That and Briscoe were ridiculous.
Yeah, Briscoe was expensive. Yeah,
and now you can get both of them, I think, for relatively cheap. It's almost like they're giving it away. And if you don't have it, add this to your collection.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, that's all I got.
Yeah, I absolutely love this show. I remember watching it like years ago. I just forgot it was like on CBS. I thought it was on like ABC. Shows you how much I remember this show. But from this last half, I actually remember only like about 3 episodes. And they're like, I think it's literally the last 3 episodes is what I remember. So watching this was a nice blast from the past, and I had a great goddamn time with this show. I will end up rewatching this every so often. Like, I'm proud to have this in my collection, as opposed to other shows, War of the Worlds, where that is no longer in my possession. Yeah, just rewatching it for the show here was one thing. I no longer need that in my possession. The show was okay, and that's all I got to say about that one.
Was it though? Golly.
Hey, we didn't watch the second season of that one, dude.
I still hate myself for it, and I'm still really sorry.
Yep, I'm sorry too, because I made the guys check that one out, but oh well. All right, Kevin, six-pack challenge. I'm going to throw this one to you to start with.
All right. So again, you got to start with the pilot. That's our introduction to Barry Allen, the Allen family, which is a long line of police officers, except for Barry, who's a CSI officer, which, I mean, he's still a cop. He even says so. And you get his being electrocuted by the lightning, turning into Flash. You get to see why he wears the suit. It's not just for anonymity's sake. It's because he goes so fast that the clothes get blown off of him, basically.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then you meet Tina, and it's a really long episode. Watch the last 5 minutes. First 15 minutes and the last 5 minutes is pretty much all you really need out of that. But again, it is your origin story.
Yep. After
that, I went to watching The Detectives. Mainly because, like we talked about before, that's our first introduction to Megan Lockhart, the detective who is working for, oh God, what mob boss was that one? I don't remember who Megan was working for, but Barry brings her to a come to Jesus meeting about responsibility and who she works for. That was a really good episode to a point. I don't know that I would have included it had not Megan be such a recurring character later on. But most importantly, what Megan did bring to that was setting the tone for the show, for the classic like 1930s noir, the same thing that Batman the Animated Series would be. After that, I skipped all the way ahead to Ghost in the Machine, episode number 9. That's where we see Nightshade, who of course is very much the inspiration for the Gray Ghost. It gives us a little bit of a glimpse at Barry needing a mentor. Like, he's doing okay, he's been doing okay, but he has a lot of questions because this is his first time around the block as a hero. It's not even been a year, and he meets this man that's been a hero for decades, but somehow he doesn't know about him. Then after that, I went to the Trickster. Trickster, of course, being the Joker character to Flash's Batman. Pike wanted to be that character, but Pike is just not interesting enough to be anything in this. I did not like that character.
Very true.
I did not even add that to the six-pack challenge, even though it is being the direct continuation from the pilot. I don't like the pilot, so I'm not even going to do that. But the Trickster was fun. Like you said, this is where we see a very early on Mark Hamill Joker. You see the inspiration for Harley Quinn a little bit. Of course, you can see that a lot more in the last episode.
Right.
After that, I went to Deadly Nightshade because we see regular Nightshade return. Barry becomes so comfortable with Nightshade and trusts him as a mentor that he gives his identity away, which the Nightshade already knew.
Which was super funny because in the previous episode, he tells him, you don't have to open your mask. I don't need to know.
Yeah,
like
it was
it's
no
okay.
big thing. And even Trickster was like that. It's like, who he is underneath doesn't matter. I don't want to know.
Yeah, you take the mask off, then he's just another schmo.
Yeah, and that okay, so that would have been my number 6. It goes to the trial of the Trickster, because everything kind of leads up to that at the end. Like, Megan comes back for the last time and goes away for the last time, thankfully. Barry and Tina kind of have that, arm in arm kind of moment at the end there. But it ended with such a great crescendo of an episode. Like, the best villain that they had so far comes back, makes Flash the bad guy for a time.
Which was super fucking funny.
Yeah, like, again, cheesy as hell, but really fun to watch because these actors working together were having fun. Like,
and you could tell like they were being buddies doing this. It's not like they were playing like, yes, they were acting, but they were actually actively, they looked like somebody told them, hey, do whatever the hell you want. Oh, hey, I'm going to grab this wrench and I'm just going to run down the street and start hitting shit. They're like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. Do that. You know, it's like these two came up with like, hey, how bad can we do all this shit? And just changing the spray paint on this side was so great. Tricksterville instead of Central City.
Oh God. And the bubble gum where it goes to run through the gum.
A little bit of epoxy goes a long way.
The look that Mr. Hamill had on his face where Prank goes to take the mask off and he has that moment of, it doesn't matter who it is. But when he's done explaining that, he goes, so if you touch his mask again, I'll murder you where you stand. Okay.
Oh, what
and
a
goes
show.
Goes right back to what he was doing. Just this cute little like, okay.
Yeah.
It's those little things that make actors great. But that was my 6-packs.
All right. For my 6-pack, let's do this. All right, I'm gonna be the bad guy here. I'm gonna say watch the pilot. It's bad. It's long. It's unnecessary, but it is unfortunately necessary to get the origin point for Barry. What happens, what causes it. Yes, you get it in the title sequence throughout the entire show. However, there are elements that do come to play multiple times. You know, his brother Jay dying, that's ultimately what triggers a lot of things that happen in the show. There's other episodes that play into that, like the Dark Riders come back at a different episode. I'm not actually going to include that one because I don't think it's really all that important. However, you know, there's a lot going on, probably almost too much going on in the pilot that they could have like really slimmed it down. However, I'm definitely going to say start with that because you do get the introduction of basically everybody that matters, and anybody that doesn't matter, they're eventually gone by the halfway point. So, and I mean that as being an honest critic here, like Barry's family did not need to be in the second half. They just didn't, and they weren't. So that it's like the writers understood like, hey, we got that out of the way. A lot of these actors are, you know, they're probably getting other roles, you know, let them go do their thing. It's okay. They'll just come back every now and then. I'm assuming if we had gotten another season, we would have seen his dad and mom once or twice more, and that's fine. Just keep it to a minimum. This is Barry's story. He's an adult. He doesn't need the family element unless he's about to get married and have kids. And we weren't going to get that in. So that said, we're going to go from that, and we're going to stroll right along to the Ghost and Nightshade episode, Ghost in the Machine, episode number 9. Yep, we're going to skip several episodes between those. Largely because that is I feel like that's an excellent episode to jump to, because you automatically get into him. Like, he's now been doing the Flash thing for a few episodes, and now he needs a little guidance. He's having some struggles, and he's dealing with this villain from a previous generation that he's not exactly sure how to handle. And, you know, working with the Nightshade and all of that, that was just a great episode, great blending of the different generations. It felt like a replication of the show itself, which was blending the 50s to a more modern era of the 90s. So you had a lot of parallels going through the episode. It was very excellent. Acting is awesome. And I will reiterate my point from the previous episode. Belle was being a cougar, and Ghost clearly loves you. Just saying. And after that, we're going to go into the episode that came right after that, Sight Unseen, where the feds are starting to play a role in the show. And that becomes more of a pivotal point for like later on, for when you get to the Alpha episode. I'm not recommending that one. So spoiler alert, that's not my 6-pack. But the Sight Unseen, I liked Barry now suddenly having to be like, okay, I don't have to deal with these cops. I don't have to deal with these villains. I now have to deal with another set of assholes. Great. You know, I got scientists going nuts, doing this, doing that. I got villains doing this, doing that. I gotta, you know, keep an eye on my own police force for any crazy going on there. And now I gotta worry about the freaking government And I really liked the concept and the cloaking ability going on with Gideon and then Project Pandora. I just felt like it was a very complete episode, and where I felt like the show was really starting to click right about that midway point. Because once you get to the next few episodes, it really hits running. So I think the first three are definitely going to be the pilot. Then we're going to go Ghost in the Machine and Sight Unseen. And then we're going to go right into Deadly Nightshade. We're following up with another Nightshade episode. Great dynamic, great casting. I loved the Bohannon being the Bruce Wayne correlate, kind of like a parallel of sorts, because the kid was like, hey, my dad was bad, but I got all this money. I'm going to be a vigilante that's going to take people out. I got money, so I can do whatever I want. So it felt like a nice play on a Bruce Wayne gone bad. And I really appreciated that. I really felt like they could have dropped a Batman reference in there somewhere. And this is probably as close as they got. Probably a limitation from DC, Warner Brothers, not sure, but it very well could have been. And that's how they probably made a workaround here, is like, hey, we can't do it, so we're going to do a little knockoff and kind of mess around with the character. I really liked it. I thought it gave Barry and Nightshade interesting enemy to go after. And well, wait, his name was Nightshade. Loved his car. It was an Acura NSX. Beautiful, stunning black car. It's as close to a Batmobile as we were going to get in this show.
Didn't have cobwebs on it towards the end.
Yeah, nope. Or did it?
In the second, in Deadly Nightshade, Nightshade's car had like cobwebs in the grill.
Oh,
but like the rest of it looked clean and cherry.
Their way to try to age it up.
Kinda.
Oh, wait, I am sorry. I was actually going to do Trickster before we got to the Deadly Nightshade episode. I needed to flip the page. But, yep, Trickster is in the six-pack route. And then, we've gotten into that. And then I'm going to end it with, Trial of the Trickster. It's a great ending to this show. A lot of character arcs finally hit their crescendo. Would have been nice if we gotten a little more tie-up with, like, Tina and Barry, but not necessary. We got rid of Megan. So that's going to be just dandy. Loved Prank. And I wrote down, goddamn, this is an audition tape for being Joker. Hamill steals the show. And that's saying something, because John Wesley Shipp was crushing this role as Flash and as Barry Allen. And for Mark to steal the show from him, that's saying something. And I wrote down, what a crime duo these two would be if Barry stayed evil. The dangerous duo, I would have dubbed them. So my six-pack is basically, that's my six-pack. And I think that's a very rounded set of episodes. Just stick to the pilot and go to the Trickster and the Ghost episodes. You're going to be just dandy with Sight Unseen dashed in there just to give you a little something different.
Sight Unseen, I did not dislike that one, but that one did drag for me a little bit. I don't know why. Like the Invisible Man aspect to it was pretty good.
Yeah, that one, I know for some they might find it draggy. I actually found it very interesting. And that's probably why I like that one a little bit more than you probably did. But like, there's definitely a few nice homages going on through all the episodes, or even great cameos. The big one is the dude from Law and Order, Richard Belzer.
Oh, yes.
Who plays the asshole, like, news reporter.
Joe Klein.
Joe Klein. And that is like completely fantastic. So if you're a fan of him and you want to see him do something just a little different, yeah, he plays an asshole in Law and Order too. But like, dude, gotta check out him in the Flash. He is freaking hilarious, and he looks like he's having a fun time doing it.
Oh, completely. And then in Trial of the Trickster, Mark Hamill dresses up and does an impression of him.
Yep.
It was just glorious. Like, he
full
was
makeup
hamming
too.
it up. Yeah, like all of it was really good. Better makeup in some of the movies we've talked about recently.
Yeah, right.
Different type of special effects, though. That's why too. Anyway.
Yep. I think my last thing is, I love seeing Walter White being in episode 13. Great to see Bryan Cranston doing something with a full head of hair. Just gotta say it.
Yeah, it was really weird. Really weird, because like I always just think of him as being Hal. I didn't realize I've been, watching him do stuff since I was 10.
I know, like, it made me look at his filmography and I'm like, Jesus. I guess I've seen him do a bunch of other things before he did Malcolm in the Middle and then Breaking Bad.
See, Breaking Bad was one that I didn't watch. Like, I think I watched the pilot and I was like, I don't like this at all. I don't.
it's a different show. It's nobody's really likable really all the time. And every time you start to like somebody, they do something stupid or bad. So it's I really like it, but I think Better Call Saul is a better show. Hot take.
That's what I've heard, though. I've heard that. Well, that's the one that's still being filmed, isn't it? Or
No,
did it get canceled?
no, that's done. It finished its run.
Oh, okay.
It went 6 seasons. Like it ended just fine. I know a lot of people didn't really. The ending was divisive for everybody, but the ending for every show is a bit divisive. So I mean, say for Flash, there's probably people that thought this is not the kind of episode you end on. This is kind of stupid. But in my opinion, Trial of the Trickster it was literally of the last few episodes. That was the best episode to end on. It just is.
I think so. It was the most fun.
And most
It really
satisfying
was.
ending. It has an actual conclusion and it makes you feel happy. It doesn't feel like you're being left on a fucking cliffhanger like most of them do.
No, that's true too, isn't it? It was more complete. I think that was a better ending than his dad telling him that he thinks he's a good cop.
Right.
Like, again, the episode where his dad comes back and he's trying to help his dad was not interesting at all to me.
Yep.
Like,
I feel like RoboCop tried to do that too when we did that show. Hey, Dad, I'm going to help you solve a case and solve a crime.
Yes. Yes.
Callbacks to other episodes.
The one thing I did like about that episode where Barry offers his dad to stay with him is the sound of reluctance in John's voice. Like he did not want to ask his dad to stay.
Right.
So, and I understand those feels.
I do too. I think we can all relate to that. All right, Kevin, you got any social media for us before we sign off for the night?
Yes, The Flash was a popular show, and we had a bunch of people write in.
What?
We did. We
Hells
got
yeah.
James Pereira first, who said how they made it comic booky, and Mark Hamill. We asked people what they loved about the show this week. Sorry.
Yep.
And also, the Danny Elfman soundtrack was great too.
Oh, good God, yes.
You know, and
Shirley
given
Walker.
Danny and Shirley, like depending upon the episode, there were some fantastic scores.
Man, I should look to see if they have like a CD soundtrack for this or something online.
I
didn't think to look for that.
I don't know about the Flash, but
I know they got others, yeah.
Danny has a couple of compilation discs, music for a darkened theater. It might be on one of those.
Well, Shirley Walker did a soundtrack for a Space Above and Beyond that we're going to be covering later this year. That is absolutely stunning, and this is really hard to get a hold of.
Oh, wow.
That's one of my favorites of hers because that's her on her own, and she was phenomenal with that.
Now, did she write the Trickster's theme in this, or was that Danny?
I did not catch that. I probably should have watched that, but I didn't see that.
Because I know the Joker waltz in the animated series is much different than the Joker waltz in the movie. So I always assumed that maybe that was Shirley Walker that wrote that. I wasn't sure.
Might have been a combination of both where they worked together on that.
Mayhaps. But you definitely saw the seeds of that planted here with Trickster. Not just Mark's character developing as Joker, but the music for him as well. It was a planting point, a seeding point.
Yeah, I can
for
see
lack
that.
of a better term.
No, yeah, I agree.
And going to that as well, we've got Philip Coates, who said the theme by Elfman is great. The scores by Shirley Walker are great. The three leads were perfect. Glad we got to see all of them in the new Flash series. I was too. Although was Julio in the new series? I didn't see him.
That I don't. That's a really good question. To be honest, I never finished season 3, and I never went past that in Flash. I love the first 2 seasons. I don't know, something in season 3, I got halfway through, and I'm like, I think I'm done.
They start doing Flashpoint, and I don't think Flashpoint is as beloved of a story as they think it is.
Yeah, probably not.
I think it's just the one story. Kind of like Nightfall is not the one story that Batman or everybody knows for Batman.
Right.
Anyway, let's see here. And of course, going back to Chad said, what did I love? Let's see. There was the wondrous insanity of a pre-Joker Mark Hamill chewing up and spitting out scenery as the Trickster. The special effects, especially the point of view running shots, were spectacular. They were.
I will, yeah.
Earl the dog was just too funny.
I love that dog. Oh,
Yeah,
he was
Earl
great.
doesn't get enough props. He does not.
Or Earl Jr. in the Fast Forward episode.
Oh gosh, you know what? That's something else that I should have mentioned when you said what we would have seen in a second season. Probably more time travel,
Yeah, probably.
which could have been good or bad.
My guess is we would have gotten something in the past because we already had a Into the Future one. We would have had something a few years before where he can't mess with the timeline, or he already messed with the timeline and things just remain unchanged when he gets back.
Suddenly his mom is dead now.
That would have been funny.
Yeah, this is before any of that, Nora dies stuff.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, let's see here. Where was I? Oh, I lost my plot.
You were on chat.
Point of view were spectacular. Earl the dog was just too funny, and I wish he'd been included in the comics. And the dry wit of Alex Dessert as Julio, and the shit he would give Barry was comedy gold. This was a show that was before its time, and it's really no surprise that CBS didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, no shit.
I think they were trying to bank off the success of the previous year's Batman movie and got the sticker shock from the budget.
Oh, that's true.
I would say that's probably 100% accurate. As we've seen most recently, like with American Gothic, they don't know what to do with good shows.
They like to stick with their formula, the pattern.
Yeah, and if they have a show that people tune into, like 2.5 Men, they milk that for more than it's worth.
Oh yeah, they beat their comedies to death.
Yeah, like 2.5 Men was not a bad show for the first season or two. Like there's some really good side characters in there that's not Charlie Sheen. Like the kid and Charlie were probably the weakest points of the show. Although everyone loved the kid, he thought he was worth more than anybody else
until the end.
Know. Right.
Well, same thing with like Big Bang Theory. Like I have my opinions on that show, but like literally my wife and I didn't even watch the last 2 seasons until years later. They were on Blu-ray and I got them super cheap and then we watched them. So what does that tell you? It took us like a couple years to even get around to watching the last 2. I personally love like the first 4, but that's about where it stops for me. So
I know a lot of nerd folk really didn't like that show. I think
I can understand why.
They took offense to it as being stereotyped. I don't know that the stereotypes in this show were as bad as they could be.
That's my opinion. They could have been worse, and I could accept with what I was seeing up to a point, but eventually it's like not all geeks end up with hot women. That's not how this goes.
Usually you have to club them over the head and take them home.
Yeah, caveman Kevin.
Sorry, I was watching History of the World again. The first marriage. Whack.
Watch out for the goose egg on the forehead.
Next, our buddy Steve Martin said that the Danny Elfman theme song is one of the things that he loved the most about it. I think if there's anybody that doesn't love Danny Elfman, probably stop listening to our show because we're going to talk about him a lot with different movies, exactly. Shows, and all sorts of things. Let's see. Ken Holzhauser said everything. I was hooked to the set every Thursday night and ready for John Wesley Shipp to rid Central City of crime. Hells yes. Oh, it was kind of an event.
Yeah. Okay. Quick question for you. Where is Central City technically located? Do you know this? Is this supposed to be like a Chicago thing or like Miami? Or it's definitely not like LA because they were talking about like San Francisco later on. And I'm like, yeah, that's not this place.
I'm not sure because just about all of DC's cities are made up, I think.
Right. I mean, they still mention like real city names, but they never like, I don't know. I've never really understood like where Central City was. I guess it's south of like Metropolis or something, but maybe I wasn't sure. That's why I'm asking. Maybe if somebody's listening, they know they can help us here or help me because I don't know this. Let us know. I'd love to hear about it.
Chad.
Come on, expert Chad.
Yeah, I'm really not sure. I know Smallville's in Kansas.
Right.
I think that's the closest they've come to being like really specific with where the certain cities are.
Okay.
Star City, I think, was in the Midwest. That got destroyed.
I'm
not sure. I honestly, I don't know.
Oh,
So
That's
I
cool.
will say Chicago
Okay.
because it sounds cool.
Works for me.
And next we've got Dindo Star, who said it was a good suit, great actors in style, and fine effects with really proper music. That's all very true. The costume, we haven't talked about that yet. It's probably the most comic accurate thing I've ever seen. Like, better than Adam West's costume. My heart won't let me say it's better than Michael Keaton's costume, but it was pretty goddamn right there. Like,
Yeah, we did
very
talk about
classic.
it in the last episode about the suit a little bit, about how you could maybe tweak it to make it a little bit better, but I love the suit. It made him look like super freaking like jacked like a beast. Like if you're a villain, like say we're the villains and we come out of like trying to rob a bank like Harry was and try and fall asleep, I'd take one look at Flash and be like, here's the money, just fucking arrest me. I'm done. I wouldn't even try that shit with Flash. Like, I'd see that brick house coming at me and be like, I'm getting off the train tracks, sir. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like something that big moving at you like at 300 miles an hour. Nah, that's
Yeah.
okay.
That's like asking for a wrecking ball to the face. I'd rather just not.
Speaking of wrecking ball to the face, I love how that Harley character got the fucking wrecking ball dropped on her in the Black Rose gang.
Yep.
Where's Harley? You know that shit on your face? Yeah. Yes.
Well, yeah, he like looks back at the car and he's like, she didn't make it. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you fucking killed her.
There and over there, a little bit over there, and on your shoe.
Yeah, if you want to know where she is, she's in a few different places right now.
Oh, and speaking of, calling in next is Harley Quinn, who said she loved everything about this. This was the first time that they got to see their favorite superhero in live action. That was a really special thing, actually. It
Cool.
really was. Like, because again, superheroes, you always get nickel and dime stuff, before Blade.
Right.
Not everything was that great, and this was a very special treat compared to other stuff that you'd had that wasn't Batman or Superman.
Mhm.
Anything else like Spider-Man, the TV show, they
Mhm.
stopped making Hulk.
Yeah.
I don't know. There was this was the best of what we had at the time, and there was a lot that came after it that wasn't as good as this.
Well, yeah, like even Corman's Fantastic Four, if you check YouTube for that, you can watch it. And this show beats that by like it's a dead horse.
Like it's a dead horse.
Like it's
I've
not
heard
even a competition. Like this show is so, even by today's standards, this show is good.
Yes, there is a lot of love put into this show from the showrunners and the actors. Like, it's very evident.
Yes, I completely agree.
And it ends on a really popular note, or not popular, like upbeat
Upbeat.
note.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Just to your point, there's no you'll be here next season, blah 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 blah. There was none of that. It was a happy ending to a show that they all really liked doing.
Yeah, I give him credit for not putting the trickster laughing at the window at the very end of the episode, because that would have been that kind of style of like, hey, let's leave him with a zinger. No, they did that before they got to the nice ending. And I like that.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. They took that ending and they made that the ending to Batman Forever. Trial of the Trickster was the movie that Joel Schumacher watched over and over and over again to understand what comic book shows or comic book movies would be. And I'm glad he watched it so many times, because this is a great episode, but this is not what a Batman show should be. Just as how pretty much anyone that liked the first two Batman movies thought that the last two Batman movies were not what a Batman movie should be. So I blame him for that. I blame this for that. Otherwise, this gave us nothing but great Batman stories.
Oh, well, I'll say.
And then we've got our friend Nux, who said for the first time, it was a good show. Since we weren't watching it on high def, the special effects were pretty feasible.
Oh, that's so true. Well, I will give them also credit. The second half of this show, the special effects got a lot better. A lot better.
They did, and they used them better too. It wasn't just a gush of paper or whatever else. It actually showed Barry doing stuff.
Right.
Like Julio seeing him move his hand really fast to separate the blood.
I love that.
That was cool.
That was fantastic.
Feel my head. Am I hot? Oh, and then the parody of humanity says the reason for the suit. regular clothes can't hold up to the wind shear. Also, Mark freaking Hamill.
God
He's a
damn right.
global icon and a national treasure.
Yep.
And then John Duncan Yo-Yo said the graphic design of Central City with the Art Deco police department. Oh, and Amanda Pays was one of his favorites at the time. Amanda Pays should always be somebody's favorite. She's just wonderful.
She's one of mine. That's why we've covered so many different things with her in it recently.
That's true. That is true.
We should do a ranking to see like who's our most covered actress or actor on our show here. Between this and the 0 Point reviews, like we clearly have some favorites, even though it's not been intentional at all.
No, like Miss Sniper, like we've talked about her for the last 3 months, I think, in each show we've done.
Yeah, we go from RoboCop to now like Leviathan, Max Headroom, and now Flash with Amanda Pays.
Yeah, like it's we've done pretty well. Our 30 degrees of separation are really tight.
Yep, you'll win that game if you listen to our show.
That's true. And last, we've got Jake Peck from Rotten Reels, who said, well, it did help that Mark Hamill was the trickster, perfecting his later Joker voice.
Yes and no.
That does, it does help. I think it really helps. I think Mark Hamill elevated that, like kicked open the door for the rest of the rogues. The rest of the rogues were scary. Mark Hamill was a comic book villain and loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And that's what the show needed. It needed that kind of like jolt in its rogue gallery. You needed that chaotic element somewhere from there. Otherwise, everybody felt like just a typical gangster scientist villain.
And that's what villains were at that point. Hell, what's the first episode of the Max Fleischer Superman comics? Superman versus the Mad Scientist.
This is true.
People are home probably going, that's not what it was called.
Was he called Brainiac or Zod Jr.?
It was the Mad Scientist. Like he was going to shoot a death ray at Metropolis or some shit. And Superman beats the shit out of the death ray and saves Lois from lava. Very complicated.
No train. Damn.
No train. Not that time. And that was the end of our social media tonight.
And that will also conclude our episode on The Flash. We completely enjoyed covering both halves of the show. We hope you enjoyed listening to us. Please check us out on patreon.com. We want to thank Chad Peterman. You've heard his name before. And Skeeter Slater for being proud Patreon supporters. We're over at patreon.com/SunsAndShadowsCast. Also check us out on all of our social media. We got that bumper coming here at the end. But thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see your asses next time because we don't stop till the screaming starts. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at SunsAndShadowsCast. We are at SunsAndShadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.